So you were initially you went from working in the mailroom, you had your first test run of the payroll, which was strewn with errors. Suddenly you find yourself running payroll for 6,000, that becomes 60,000. So my question is, that transition from maybe being the local expert on US payroll and you're just looking after one country, that career shift or that elevation to a global role, what changes in your mindset or your methodology, and what stays the same?
Let me tell you, it wasn't an easy transition. The nature of a payroll person is they're going to be very task oriented, and we need all the details, right? So which means that you're always focused on the task. Your mindset is, I got to get this done. I'm the best person that can get it done. And it's what made me very successful and got me to a certain point. But when I got to that point, I was always hitting a ceiling where I could probably manage a payroll with myself and one other person for 600 people. When you start talking about 60,000 people, you're talking about a payroll department size of about 40 people that are doing different functions. So how do you get the best out of your team? And that's really where I started really focusing in on my emotional intelligence, my change quotient, all of that stuff, because you had to really build a team that is an extension of you, right? Not necessarily doing everything that you do exactly the way you do it, because that's a big change too for an individual, is that I know what it takes to be successful in payroll. Do what I say do, and you're going to be fine. But human beings do not respond to that. Human being wants to be valued. They want to make sure that their voices are heard and so on. If you're leading a team, it really is about how do you get that team to jump on board, right? Because you can have the fastest train in the world that's going to take you to where you want to go, but you have to be able to say to the team, hey, look, I know you're used to that train over there that takes 10 days to get where it's going, but guess what? We can get on this train and we can get there in 10 hours. And they're going to be like, well, is it safe? And so you have to go through that. So it's really all about the team. And I think that's where my career started shifting. And some of that came from when I was in the consulting world and when I worked for EY for about 3 years. And really in that 3-year period, I met some of the young and brightest people that I've ever met in terms of, they're just coming out of school and they're knocking stuff out the park. You never had to chase them to get work done. They're always eager for work and so on. So I got really spoiled by EY because I was there as a manager. So I was managing seniors and, and new associates. But what it taught me is that there are people that are capable. It's just really how do you get that out of them? And so, after I left EY, I had a little rough time there because I just expected everybody to be like those eager, bright people. But then I had to understand that those individuals went into consulting, understanding that it was a dog-eat-dog world, and to get to where they wanted to go, probably partner, they had to be eager. They had to chase and do things a certain way. Others are not like that. So it's really how do you get the best out of them? So for me, really, that's where I think my career kind of shifted, where people understood that this guy isn't just a payroll guy, he's a leader, right? And so it gave me the opportunity to actually lead people.
You mentioned that you were handed back a list of all the errors the first time you ever ran payroll, but I'm curious if over the last 30 years there's been any other payroll nightmares where you wish you could go back in time and do something differently.
So for sake of transparency and to let people know you're never at the end of making mistakes, just recently we had a situation, and it was kind of no fault of ours, but it was a fault of ours because there were if we were running certain audits and so on, we would have caught this situation, but we had an outsourced provider that does taxes for us, and we needed to make sure that to transfer the data, we were using Workday to transfer the data from Workday to that provider. There needed to be a sync kicked off on that provider's platform. So we were like, when we were going live, we're like, is there a way to automate that? That way we're not having to log in every day oh, sure, there's a way to automate it. And they automated it, but there was an end date put on it that was not communicated. Well, I don't remember it being communicated, and I have a pretty good memory. I'm telling you, if they had communicated this, it would have been on some checklist of mine. So the end date came at the end of January of this year, and for a month, no tax files were going over to our vendor. Now, what's the result of that? That's the worst nightmare for a payroll person, because here's what I'll say to you. If I make a mistake on your paycheck, I'm going to lose some reputation and some trust from you. right? Which I can always rebuild, but guess what? That doesn't cost me any money. It may cost me some, cachet or trust with people. Not sending over taxes and paying them on time, it's a real dollar amount. And so that mistake, when we did the calculation, could have cost us right around, almost $500,000. Thankfully, we were able to negotiate well. When I don't know, and maybe we should be thanking the current administration for firing all these IRS people, because when the assessment came back, it was like, wait, what? That number is so much lower than what I calculated. Oh my God, let's pay it. It was. And then we were able to negotiate with our provider to share in some of the responsibility. We're like, yes, we'll take it. It was like less than 10% of what we thought we were going to pay. So I can laugh about it today, but that's just a mistake. And really what I want to share there is, whatever your processes and procedures are to keep things accurate, to keep things safe, really always stick to those. If you have a checklist, yes, you may have people that have been there 5 years that really don't need that checklist anymore, but keep using that checklist. One of the things that I struggled with when I was at Hard Rock was getting my team to understand the value of a checklist. And so the story that I always use with them was, hey, guys, do you know how long it takes a commercial pilot to get his pilot's license? It's about 10,000 hours of flying, which means he knows a lot of shit about flying. But what does a commercial pilot do every time he sits in that seat? He goes through a checklist. The checklist isn't there to judge if you're smart. The checklist is just there to make sure you don't miss something. So I say all of that to say, don't stop using everything to your power to make sure you're doing your audits and so on, to make sure that not only are you paying paychecks, but all of the activity that happens afterwards, people, taxes being paid, garnishments being paid, stuff going to your health care providers and so on, that all of that is taken care of. And those should be part of your payroll checklist, that your post payroll activity, because that's where some of the liabilities that you could incur is going to happen. And thank God we didn't have to try to negotiate $500,000 with the IRS.
We always end this with a couple of fun questions. If payroll had a mascot, what would it be and what would you call it?
That's a good one. Honestly speaking, I always think about an eagle and how perceptive an eagle is, how it flies high, but it really can see all the details. What would I call it? Sentinel. We stand guard over the details. We protect the integrity of the process, and we go do it with unwavering dedication. And so I think my payroll mascot would be an eagle, and the eagle's name would be Sentinel.
That's a heck of an answer. If you like, Michael, you can imagine Sentinel flying high in the sky. You look up and what music is scoring his flight?
Funny enough, because we're constantly moving in the payroll world, there's a song that Tina Turner sang with Ike called Proud Mary. There's a sign that says rolling down the river. And so for me, because we're constantly rolling, constantly moving, that would be my payroll theme song. Proud Mary's rolling down the river.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, and lastly, if you could sum up a career in payroll in 3 words, what do you got?
Precision, accountability, and dedication. Whenever you're implementing payroll, if you have a payroll issue, you're there until it's fixed and so on. So there's really a level of dedication and selflessness that you have to go with. So precision, accountability, and dedication would be the 3 words that I use.
I love it. I don't think there's anybody in their career who could argue with your choice of those 3.
Thank you for this opportunity. I mean, this was really a fun time. When you reached out to me, like, a podcast. Interesting. We could do that. And I really didn't realize how much fun I was going to have with it.
Well, we'll leave it there. Michael Francis, thank you so much for joining me. And to my audience, thank you as always for listening. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Take care.